favor say aye.
Aye.
And then abstain for those that weren't here. And then opposed. And then the ones that weren't here want to abstain.
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 Aye.
Okay, so 4 abstaining. All right, motion passes. All right, first on the agenda, under public hearings, River City Investments, rezoning site plan, special use permit, preliminary plat, and final plat 2021-34 for Seaward Apartments, 32-unit apartment building, northwest corner of 3rd and Tyler. Staff report by John Hinsman, who is going to be doing this remote, I understand.
Yeah, John Hinsman, Community Development Director, is here by telephone, and so he's going to be doing the presentation on this.
Okay, thanks.
All right, John.
Can you hear us?
Okay. All right. Planning Commissioners, thanks for accommodating this tonight. Before us, we've got 4 actions related to the Seaward Apartment projects, which is a 32-unit apartment project on the northwest corner of 3rd and Tyler Street. It's a public hearing. First action is a rezoning. We've got a preliminary and final plat and site plan. So I'm going to go through these individually, and then we can open it up for a public hearing at that point. So looking at the property itself, northwest corner of 3rd and Tyler, it's owned jointly between River City Investments, which is Luke Seaward, and Hedra. Hedra owns the parking lot. Luke owns the house. Hedra has agreed to sell the property for this project moving forward. So we're looking at a rezoning of the property. Right now, the property is zoned C3 Community Regional Commerce. We're looking to rezone the property to downtown core. The reason behind this deals with the residential density of the project. C3 is more of a commercial zoning district. Downtown core allows for more flexibility on the residential side of things. So that's the proposal we have tonight. When you take a look at the comprehensive plan, the property is guided for mixed use. The downtown core district is consistent with that use. And when you look at the type of uses that fit within the downtown core district, with apartments over first floor and the density and the setbacks and building up to the 0 lot line, that's what's being proposed here. It's within the height limits and the density of this district. So we are recommending approval of the rezoning of the property. The next thing is a preliminary and final plat. This is a very simple plat that we have on the property. This is 2 lots that are being platted into a single lot. The lot itself would be for the 32-unit apartment building. There's no streets. There's no more than a perimeter easement on it. So there's not much to review on this one. The requirements that do come into play would be park dedication and sewer interceptor fees that would be paid. We will have the Park and Recreation Commission look at the park dedication requirements tomorrow night. We are recommending cash in lieu of land. I'd be surprised if it came back as something different, considering the property size is so small on this. So then we move into the site plan, which is really the meat and bones of what we're looking at here. This is for a 4-story, 32-unit apartment building. Looking at the site itself, setbacks are 0 lot line because of the downtown nature of this project. We got good pedestrian access around the building with sidewalks and the Bailey Street Trail across the street. From a parking standpoint, when you're looking at parking under this zoning district, we look at it different than our regular prescribed standards. We look at a couple of different studies. One would be the Urban Land Institute Shared Parking Standards. The other would be the International Transportation Engineers ITE standards. We look at what they say for these type of developments. They go within different parameters relating to suburban and urban uses, and the type of uses being apartment, low density, high density. So within the packet, I put down what the requirements would be for these studies. And essentially they range from about 1.21 parking spaces per unit, which means for every unit you need to have 1.2 parking spaces, all the way up to 1.5. So 1.2 to 1.5 would be that range. What Mr. Seaward is proposing is 1.4 spaces per unit. So 45 spaces for a total of 32 units. Of those spaces, 32 would be garage spaces, so 1 for 1 in the garage, and then 13 surface parking spaces. Because that 1.4 fits within those other standards, we are recommending approval of the parking as calculated. This is a similar type of standard we used for the Confluence development. For our architectural standards, we look at a couple of different things. One, the standard architectural standards, and two, taking a look at the Heart of Hastings standards for construction as well. They do meet both of those classifications. The material studies or standards under the zoning code are met here. There's over 75% of what we term class 1, which are brick and windows essentially on the structure. When you take a look at what the structure looks like, it's comprised of, on the bottom level, of a precast concrete wall that's stamped and stained. We went a lot of back and forth with the developer on this to try to make sure that this ground floor parking ramp didn't look like a ramp. And so we had to mimic the window pattern from the upper levels down into it to make it look like there's windows on the first floor, and also integrated some raised plantings under the balcony to break up that ground floor surface. We think that what is being done here complies with that. Above that, it's a combination between brick and a lot of windows that come in there, and pre-finished metal, and some fiber cement smooth space siding. So we are recommending approval of the architectural as they move forward here. Lighting plan, they'll need to submit that as we move forward. Landscape plan, we're okay with that. The constrained site itself limits the amount of trees that can be planted, but they are adding more shrubs than what would be required, so we're substituting that for the trees. From a grading, drainage, and erosion control, there's a few comments that our engineer has that they will need to address on it, but ultimately, I think we're in good shape. We're recommending approval of the site plan as well, subject to the conditions within the report. So those are the actions we have before us relating to the Seaward Apartment building. This is a public hearing. You can open it up at this time, or I can stand for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Commissioners, any questions for John before we open the public hearing? Okay. If not, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here? Is Mr. Seward here by chance? Okay. Okay. Sounds good. He's in the audience tonight. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Nope. Nobody on Zoom? Okay. Is there anybody present here that wishes to speak on this? If you do, go ahead and make your way to the podium where Justin is standing, and then just state your full name, and if you're a resident here, state your full address. Anyone? Nope. All right. One final quick check, Justin. Nobody on Zoom? All right. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And commissioners, open it up for any questions, comments. And then I can't see your red lights because of the plexiglass, so if you just verbally let me know you want to say something. This way then I don't miss you. So. My first comment is I really like the way the garage looks on the outside. I think that's very nice. Put those windows in there, that makes a huge difference. To make it look like there's actual, yeah, that makes a huge difference. Definitely fits within what they're looking for. So. Commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner Tyke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question about the landscaping. Is that, I was trying to look through here, is it all irrigated? So it's not going to die off because it's kind of in a concrete coffin, I think we call it. Justin, John?
Do you want to step up in case you have any questions for it? It sounds like he's asking you direct. Okay.
I don't know if he had it irrigated there. I know we were working on those planter boxes that go alongside the garage there, which I'm guessing they would be if the plants that were chosen require it, but I'm not 100% certain.
Mr. Chair, I echo you that I like how they did the garage, and I think it fits well. I'm just a little concerned about the plants. A little feedback here, but otherwise, I think it's looks like a good project and bringing some much needed housing for downtown. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners? Commissioner Romans?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question for John. On the street out there, is there street parking now? I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Was the question, is there on-street parking?
Is there on-street parking there right now?
Yes.
There is, okay. Is there going to be any time allotments or anything made as far as the change in use there, or is it just going to stay the same as far as?
Nothing's proposed.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted, because I would imagine we'll see a little bit more of an increase in parking there. But otherwise, I like the aesthetics of the building. I think it'll fit in real nicely there. And so that was my only kind of concern there, is just the change in the on-street parking there. Otherwise, I think it looks great. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Commissioner Mansky?
So currently, right now, there's a house sitting there that it's gonna have to be demoed. And you currently own that house, you own that property?
Correct, yep.
And then they have a certain timeline that they're gonna be out of there, and then you're gonna start the demo process on this?
Yes, so it'd be by the end of the year, we're just waiting to get through this part of it, and then we're working with Xcel Energy as well on the overhead power lines. So that would be coordinating with them on when they can do those, because they're gonna be burying those power lines. We're gonna coordinate the excavating with the house then as well, so most likely be by the end of the year, right away at the beginning of the year to be ready for a spring build.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? No? Okay, if not, we're gonna take these one at a time. I'm gonna break them up. So the first motion will be to rezone property from C3 Community Regional Commerce to DC Downtown Core. So Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to approve. This is number one. Commissioner Howard?
I'll make the motion to approve the rezoning property from C3 to DC Downtown Core.
Okay.
Seconded?
Sorry?
I'll second it.
Second, okay, Commissioner Tyson, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Second one, preliminary and final plat of Seaward Apartments, a replat of two existing lots into a single lot of record. That's what John was referring to earlier. I'll take a motion to approve. Commissioner Romans?
Make a motion to approve the preliminary and final plat of the Seaward Apartments and replete the two existing lots into a single lot of record.
Commissioner Best?
I'll second.
All right, second by Commissioner Best. Commissioners, any other discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I'm guessing it's including the 7 recommendations as listed?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yes.
would be subject to the
Okay.
recommendations unless somebody draws out one or multiple items, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna assume it's under the recommendations as stated by staff, unless somebody draws attention to one or something else.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And I'm sorry, Commissioners, any other discussion? If not, okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. And final, site plan for construction of a 32-unit apartment building with the ground floor covered parking and the top 3 stories of residential apartments for 4 stories total. Commissioners, anyone, motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, Commissioner Massey, do I have a second? Commissioner Halbert?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, see no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Great,
Mr.
thank you.
Stewart, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, under another public hearing, this will be for KO Storage, special use permit, site plan 2021-35, mini storage expansion, 2699 Commerce Drive, staff report by Justin Courtney. Justin?
Thank you very much. This is for a special use permit and site plan for which there was a last-minute change that I provided at the beginning of the meeting. And it was in response to comments that staff had. The site has pretty much been using that area on the south side for parking, which was being interrupted by the building proposal. So they've broken that building up into two parts to allow for continued parking in that area. So they've proposing to split that building in half, with half of it going in the area that was turf to the east of that main shop building, and then south of the existing building, they're going to be taking out pavement and turning that into turf. The site history here is it at one point had, in 1998, had a site plan for an asphalt business, and then in 2006 and 2011, it had mini storage added to it in those two different phases. The zoning ordinance allows storage in the industrial park, but it doesn't allow retail uses without a special use permit. So since mini storage is retail use, they have to get a special use permit for that. A special use permit is generally a use that the city believes is appropriate in that district, but wants to reserve review of each individual case to determine if there's any necessary conditions that should be determined for conditions on that use to make sure it fits well with the area. For mini storage, there really isn't any cause for concern for extra traffic or visibility issues or access like you would for some other types of retail uses that draw in a lot more traffic. The only condition that staff has for a special use permit for mini storage at this location is that there be no outdoor storage, which is what we've used for other mini storage approvals in the industrial park. So this revised site plan that you received a copy of shows the fourth building on the north. That would be a similar layout to the other ones. And then the building that was originally going to be quite long on the south side was split in half and allowed for parking to be remain where it kind of has been. I did comment to the applicants after I received this today that, of course, we can't have parking spaces behind other spaces, but in the industrial park, the parking spaces can go all the way up to the property line, and they only need 11 spaces, so there should be room to have just that one row down there. Also, the number of spaces required for that building is based on a general retail use or type of office use, but most of that building has been in the past used for a shop, so if somebody ended up using that building for some type of a shop or warehouse building, the parking requirements would probably be much less than 11. But worst case scenario for parking would be need for 11. The setbacks for the proposed buildings are in line with the existing buildings on the site and similar to buildings in the surrounding area. In our commercial districts and industrial districts, we don't have prescribed arbitrary setback numbers. Setbacks are determined during the review process through reviewing the site plan. And I can go through some photographs here. Looking at kind of the view shed from the street, you can see where the shop building is, and then there's a storage building in the back of the site. The new building would be kind of on this right side. It would come up to the street, I think as close to as the side of the shop building. And then there'll be that second half of that building behind that shop building, behind where those, of course, those trucks are there. And then this is looking at it from a different angle. This is that shop building, and that building would be behind those vehicles, quite a ways behind those vehicles. This is a view shed that wasn't in the site plan, or in the packet. It would show where that second half of that building would be located. It would be on the other side of that shop building. it'd be fairly hard to see from the street, partially because it's going to be directly behind this existing building, and also because of the grade. And then this is from the other angle. Be very difficult to see from this angle. And this is the existing 3 buildings on the north side of the site. They're split-faced concrete masonry unit buildings. This 4th one would be in the back here. It's roughly the same size as those buildings. These buildings, like I said, are a split-faced block. It's like a rough masonry unit that's dyed a color. It's kind of like a reddish on the bottom and a tan, and then it's steel corrugated siding up on this gable end. And the roof pitch is fairly steep compared to the applicant's buildings. These are some examples of buildings they've got at some of their other sites. These look like single units. I think that the unit they're proposing up here is going to be a double-sided unit, just like the existing units there. But these roof pitches are a little shallower, and the door configurations are, fairly close together. Let's see if there's a. So here's a profile picture of what the end of the building would look like. They would use cultured stone for the sides of the 4th building that they'd be putting there, all the way up to the small narrow gable end, with a similar color to match the existing buildings there. This is kind of just a view shed showing that you'd be able to see those ends of the building. If you could look at the photograph I had earlier, you could see, where the building would be. This one's obscured because there's a lot of vegetation here that would likely come out when they, do the construction and pavement. And then again, you can see the front of this building. But it is set back quite a bit further than it was originally on the site plan that came in the packet. And then this building, looking at it on a site plan like this, it looks like you'd be able to see those ends fairly easy, but I think because of the elevation difference, you can't see over that hill well unless you're in a very tall vehicle. Those pictures I was using before was also from Google View, so it was, mounted from a camera on a roof of a car. This is an example of the product they'd be using for the cultured stone for the buildings, which can be dyed colors, and they would have it dyed to match the existing stone on those storage buildings on the north and the bottom of the building, of the shop building. And they've got an example here they brought with them. So the ordinance requires that additions to buildings and new buildings on site are supposed to be of similar character and appearance to the existing buildings that are on the site. There's a few different style buildings currently on the site. There's the metal shop building, which is all steel, and then an office building, office room was added onto it and that does have some, what appears to be like a reddish brick towards the bottom. And then in the back, there's a steel storage buildings, and then on the north side, there's those concrete CMU storage buildings. And they're going to be installing these buildings, on both sides of the site. And a lot of the materials they're going to use are going to kind of replicate some of those features. I think the main difference is the roof pitch is going to be a lot shallower than the existing buildings. Other than that, I think the materials they're going to be using are going to make them blend together fairly well. So staff is recommending approval of the special use permit and the site plan, along with the conditions in the staff report, which is that if they don't make any attempt to start this project in the next year, the approval would be null and void, along with if the use is ever discontinued for a period of 3 years or longer, which does happen for special use permits for a lot of uses, like, auto repairs, things like that. But for a storage use, it wouldn't, unless all those buildings were demolished. They'd have to come back again for a special use permit. And then that there's no outdoor storage. So with that, I can answer any questions that the commission has. Otherwise, this is a public hearing. And we can open it up for comments.
Okay, thanks, Justin. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And you're both applicants for this, right? So nobody else here, and then do we have anybody on Zoom?
No.
No, okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And go ahead and open it up for any questions or comments for Justin, and the applicants are here with us as well. And again, if we have any questions, just go ahead and step up to the podium, or unless you want to say something as well. They brought a piece of wall with them. If you want to see the actual wall, the material that they're going to use. I noticed you were holding it up earlier. There you go. So if you want to see the actual material that they're using for the side of that, we've got that there too as well. Commissioners, go ahead and open up for any questions, comments. Commissioner Tagle.
Thank you, Chair. What constitutes outdoor storage?
Well, anything outside the buildings.
Vehicles,
Vehicles,
trailers, boats?
Trailers, correct.
So I noticed in the pictures, they have a lot of trailers and construction equipments in there.
Yeah, those pictures are from Google Street View, and so they're fairly dated. They've only owned this property for a very short time.
Okay.
Those vehicles belong to the previous owner, which used the site for storage, and they also used it for their paving business.
Gotcha.
That's what those vehicles were for.
So none of that would be allowed
Correct.
moving forward. And then it looks like they're putting in a patch of grass. Is that to meet some requirement, or?
Yeah, well, it's to make up for the loss of this turf here. There's a requirement that any landscaping that, I should have mentioned it, but they don't have to meet our current landscaping ordinance, because this is just a minor site plan. They're not adding more than 25% to the buildings. But any landscaping that's impacted from the site plan has to be replicated.
Gotcha. Okay. Looks like a good use of land to me. And it seems like these mini storage places are popping up all over the place, so people must want to store their stuff. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner Tyken. Commissioner Maskey, did you have something?
The only, it's good that I see that they bring in some of the turf, and that they are bringing in as of replacing that as opposed to putting concrete or asphalt back in that spot. It helps for the stormwater management of the area. We have quite a bit of runoff that comes off of those sites along the street, and really causes a lot of problems, I think, for drainage through there, and then directly down into the drainage to the north. So as far as that goes, yeah, that was, but I had something else and I've lost it all of a sudden here, so I'm gonna give it back to you.
Okay. Thanks. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Peters?
Thank you. This is just a question. I don't know if it's for you or for you, Chair, but when we've looked at other mini storage plans since I've been here, there's always been some discussion of like controlled access, where there's been a fence or, some type of controlled access around the property. I'm just wondering why that's not on here, or, is that part of something that's usually required, or why isn't that there?
Sure. I don't believe that we have any type of requirement for that. I think it's a question people have, especially if it's a site that's not, doesn't have people there all the time. On this site, there's an active business that's going to be located on the site, so there's going to be people there during the day. Also, that would kind of complicate having closed access for the site if people couldn't get to that business. They own that building, but I believe they're going to be leasing that out to an independent party. Did you guys have any plans for any kind of controlled access? I think when we had spoken before, I think you talked about having a series of, do you have cameras out there or anything like that? Yeah. why don't you-
Come on up if you would, so that we can. And if I can send an email as well.
Yep, Ross Stickler, I'm a senior project manager with KO Construction. We're acting as a general contractor on behalf of KO Storage. And we do not have any sort of gate access proposed just because the level of security that we get from our cameras that are going to be installed, they usually are sufficient enough for that. License plate recognition, facial recognition software for a certain distance with lighting that's already available on the site. So that's kind of where we're going with the gate access for that. So we did not propose any fencing. I think it just would, I think the site where we have it landscaped up, it gives a much better aesthetic. And then the proposed facade enhancements that we have for these from the road is going to really give a nice character and give it a holistic look. So we're excited about that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense, because Commerce Drive, if you have time to be looking up there, you're not paying attention. There's no lane markers there, so you gotta pay close attention because traffic's coming and go, especially with the detour, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, aesthetically, you don't even pay attention to what's up on the hill, the long driveway, so.
Right, and if there's another, like a larger 8-wheel or 16-wheel that's trying to get up that drive, and sometimes, if it's icy or anything like that, they might stall and have to, when they're punching in that keypad, it just didn't make any sense to really have that kind of equipment there, more or less, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Commissioners, any other questions for applicant? Justin? Comments? Commissioner Maskey?
All right, so how many storage units or storage facility places do we have in the industrial park right now? Do we know?
Well, there's this one here, then there's one across the street, and then I think there's the two
That we-
new ones that we approved.
Okay, is there any limit to the number that can go in there?
No.
I mean, so, and they're all classified as appropriate for the industrial park?
They've all received, well, anything that's proposed will have to get a special use permit. I'm not sure if the one across the street does, that's fairly old.
Right, right. So I'm just kind of, and nothing against the site, I think this is fine, this is good use for this, but I'm just wondering, for our industrial park as we're moving forward, are we, if we start seeing a lot more storage unit facilities in that, I mean, are we gonna, is there some sort of way we can curtail that, or is that, each one needs a special use permit? I mean, it kind of sets back what an industrial park is for if all we're putting is storage units in there.
Yeah, I agree with you. The special use permit's not a good way to regulate it. It's really not appropriate to turn down a special use permit because you feel there's too many there. But, the last two projects we approved were on city-owned property that the header had sold the property for. All the rest of, most of the, well, not all of it, most of the vacant land in the industrial park is owned by the city. So we would have to make the future decisions to keep selling it for that use. This site, of course, isn't owned by the city, and they're just, filling in,
Right,
unused
right, but-
portions, so it's a little different, but
Yeah, it just seems like if we just keep promoting more and more for our industrial site, then we're losing our businesses, our potential business sites, so. That was what I was getting at, I was thinking about earlier, so. All right,
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Maskey, and a good point, it doesn't affect this at all, but just for future planning purposes, I think brings up a good point down the road. Absolutely. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Okay, if we have none, I'll go ahead and accept a motion. Sure. Oh, sure, come on up, yeah, no problem, sorry about that.
So with this facility, we'd like to do it in a phase construction. The building on the largest building, and then the one that is adjacent to the existing commercial space, where they're going to be our first phase. Then our second phase was going to be that one next to the turfed area. Is that, probably a question, is that something that we would need to have all three of them done within the same year? Or have starting that process for all three buildings? Or would a phased development plan need to be agreed upon before council
Yeah, I think if you, as long as, yeah, we can put that into the conditions.
Sure. Okay, because yeah, it
By
would be
council.
most likely just because of timing and where we're at right now in the year, it would probably be those first two buildings, and then that last one would probably be sometime next year or down the road.
Right,
So,
sure,
okay, thank you. We can talk later too. Thank you.
sure.
So Justin, does that affect what we're doing here today? I heard a little
Yeah.
bit about it, was the plexiglass, now we wanna, it might go past the 1-year sunset clause? The whole project?
Well, they're gonna get going on the project, sooner than 1 year, but he said there's a possibility the second phase, which would be the south building, might not be right away.
Well, as long as it starts.
Yeah, probably, as long as it starts, right.
Alright, that's what I thought, I just wanted to clarify, because,
'Cause the way the condition's written, it says if progress towards the request isn't started within a year, so I think it'd be fine.
we should be good.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Commissioners, any questions on that before we take a motion?
Mr. Chair, I got one quick.
Commissioner
One quick question with that. If they do that second building in in that phase, should that grass be put in though first if they're putting in that building that's removing that turf? At least just opened up and then just planted quick. That way that part is taken on and done at least. Not done, it can just be thrown in some whatever grass seed temporarily, but to keep that same balance.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We'll have them do that when we review the building plans.
Okay, so we'll take care of that when you review the actual building plans?
Mhm.
Okay, so it'll be outside of this, outside of the conditions in here? Or do we want to add that as a condition? You certainly can if you want to amend it, add it as a condition if you want to.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to add it to the special use permit because it's not really
Okay.
helping in.
I think it would be difficult
so you
for
guys
them
will
to
be able to
construct
add-
the site.
What's that?
I believe it would be difficult if they were gonna construct it. I mean, if they were, I would for sure ask for a temporary seating. If you're gonna tear out a temporary seating there, just something there, but
So staff will handle that outside of this, the building plan?
No, actually, it would be a requirement of the first phase because they're impacting the landscaping. So they'll have to put that in with the first phase.
Justin, could we make it that it didn't have to be a permanent, like, fixture? I mean, they don't have to have it fully landscaped as far as, because obviously they're gonna tear it back up to build a building next to it, but at least have the concrete ripped out and put in some seating and,
The requirement is gonna be that it's gonna have to be, at least similar to what's there now, and I think what's there now is not the greatest, landscaping chunk ever, so.
Okay. Commissioner Robbins, thank you. Commissioner Maskey, do you have something else?
no.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if there's none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the special use permit in front of us. Commissioner Romans,
I guess I'll make this motion then. I'll make the motion to approve based on the staff recommendations as well as the recommendation that the grass section be added to the east side of the lot if they're going to plan on doing the phase portions here. If I said that more eloquently, that would be a little better, but something of that.
okay, thanks Commissioner Romans. Do I have a second? Commissioner Gerald, second. Commissioner Tyken, second. Any other further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
And this will be going forward to a city council meeting next Monday on the 20th for final approval. And in case it wasn't mentioned previously, for the Seaward Apartment Building, it's going to go to first reading to order the public hearing for the rezoning on that 20th, and then in October, the first council meeting for everything.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Thanks for watching, appreciate it. All right, under other actions, we have a
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Chair. Today I will be presenting the downtown parking analysis that I conducted over the summer. Starting off with some background information. The parking analysis was conducted to determine the following: an updated inventory of available parking, or public and private parking usages during various time periods and days of the week, areas of higher concentration of use, recent developments' effect on parking utilization, and changes in utilization, and to the studying area since the last downtown parking study was conducted in 2017. The study area encompasses 20 blocks, bounded to the north by the Mississippi River, to the east by the Canadian Pacific Railroad, and to the south by Fifth Street, and to the west, to the west by Eddy Street. A map of the study area is outlined in blue and can be found on this slide or in Figure 1 of your report. Within the study area, most commercial, residential, and mixed occupancy buildings were zoned either C3, Community Regional Commerce, or DC, Downtown Core. Most single-family residential areas are zoned R2, single-family residential. Higher density residential areas are zoned R4, high-density residence, and RMU, residential mixed use. Please see Figure 2 of your report or the map attached to the slide for specific zoning classifications. A similar study was conducted by Community Development Director John Hinsman in 2017. The study concluded that parking appeared to be available within downtown Hastings during normal and peak periods, and that despite providing less parking spaces than would normally be required, utilization of downtown parking has not yet been maximized. It was also concluded that with the conversion of existing structures into restaurants, bars, and taverns, that the conversion of existing structures into bars, restaurants, taverns can be achieved without putting an inordinate strain into existing parking. And then moving on to existing conditions. There's approximately 1,500 parking spaces within the studying area, including both on and off-street parking, but excluding residential driveway parking. The public parking supply is 1,069 spaces, and the private parking supply is 431. The existing parking supply is depicted in the map that can be found on the right-hand side of the slide or in Figure 3 of your report. The study area includes a variety of land uses common to a historic downtown, including residential, retail, service, restaurant, office, and warehousing and industrial. Uses are often mixed within the same building. Many buildings do not have dedicated off-street parking facilities, but rely upon on-street parking and public parking lots to meet customer needs. The area contains approximately 332,221 square feet of commercial space and 229 residential housing units. Pending or future projects, including the Confluence redevelopment of Hudson Manufacturing and Luke Seaward's and Stencil Group's proposed apartment buildings, have been excluded from the analysis. Specific land uses are as follows: 98,444 square feet of office and event space, 91,213 square feet of retail and service space, 59,588 square feet of restaurant and bar space, 82,976 square feet of warehouse space, 6,314 square feet of industrial space, and 292 housing units. Moving on to actual utilization. Parking occupancy was surveyed 18 times between June 8th and August 29th to determine utilization. Surveys were conducted during various hours and days of the week to form an accurate picture of downtown parking usages. The surveys fall under one of three categories: weekdays noon to 5 p.m., weekdays after 5 p.m., and weekends, and the results are as follows. Weekends from 12 to 5 p.m. were surveyed 11 times with an average parking utilization of 486. Weekdays after 5 p.m. were surveyed 4 times with an average parking utilization of 527. And weekends after 12 p.m. were surveyed 3 times with an average parking utilization of 420. Figure 5 in your report identifies the average parking utilization during all surveys conducted. Overall parking utilization provides a basis for determining instances of higher demand of certain parking areas. Areas excluding 500% parking utilization include EDC or Electric Dental Services, the parking lot located underneath Vermilion Street Bridge, the main downtown parking lot, which is located north of 2nd Street between Sibley and Ramsey, Block 3 alleyway, Sibley north of 2nd Street, 2nd Street between Vermilion and Ramsey, the U.S. Post Office, Sibley between 2nd and 3rd Street, and 3rd Street between Sibley and Ramsey. Parking utilization was found to be the second highest Monday through Friday between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Higher concentrations of parking were found in the following areas: City Hall parking lot right here, EDC, 4th Street between Vermilion and Sibley, 3rd Street between Vermilion and Sibley, 2nd Street between Vermilion and Ramsey, so all the way over here too. Tyler Street, Tyler 1st to 2nd Street, and then Red Rock parking lot. Parking utilization increases after 5 p.m. on weekdays and is also where parking utilization was found to be the highest. Higher concentrations of parking were found in the following areas: the main downtown parking lot, north of 2nd Street between Sibley and Ramsey, the parking lot underneath Highway 61 Bridge, Sibley north of 2nd Street and 3rd Street, and then the east side of Vermilion, 2nd Street to 3rd Street, the police and city vehicle parking lot, and the U.S. Post Office. Overall parking utilization on weekends is comparable to weekday evenings, but with different areas of concentration, including the American Legion. Block 19 interior and alley. Parking lot located to the northwest corner of Tyler and 3rd Street, and then 3rd Street between Sibley and Ramsey, and Spiral Pizza. Some of the most popular downtown parking areas were found to be 2nd Street between Vermilion and Sibley, with an overall average of 80% and maximum utilization of 20 out of 20 spaces. Also, the main downtown parking lot located north of 2nd Street between Sibley and Ramsey, with an overall average of 67% and maximum utilization of 92 out of 95 spaces, and the parking lot underneath Highway 61 with an average of 64% and maximum utilization of 43 out of 43 spaces. And then finally, we'll compare this study to the one conducted in 2017 and take a look at the impact recent developments have had on the downtown's parking supply, demand, and utilization. From 2017 to 2021, the existing parking supply increased from 1,378 to 1,500 available parking spaces. 1,069 of those parking spaces are public and 431 are private. That is an increase of 84 public parking spaces and 38 private parking spaces. Average parking utilization for all days and times and days of the week surveyed in 2021 was 31.3%, or 469.5 spaces. Compare that to 2017, which saw an average utilization rate of 28.9% and 398.6 spaces. That equates to about a 17.8% increase during that 4-year time period. The data also found an increase in the number of areas that exceeded the 75% utilization threshold. This is especially true in the 4-block area bounded to the west by Highway 61, to the south by 3rd Street, to the east by Ramsey Street, and to the north by Levy Park, with as many as 5 locations within that area surpassing the threshold compared to only 1 in 2017. The highest utilized category also switched from weekdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in 2017 to weekdays after 5 p.m. in 2021. And since the study conducted in 2017, a parking ramp has been constructed, parklets have been installed, art space lofts were completed, Levy Park improvements were made, and the confluence continued its redevelopment of Hudson Manufacturing, all of which have had an impact on downtown's parking supply, demand, and utilization. For example, the installation of parklets on East 2nd Street and Sibley Street reduced the number of usable on-street parking spaces from 30 to 20 and 9 to 7, respectively, while the addition of the parklets on East 2nd Street and Sibley Street have been observed to have put an increased strain on East 2nd Street and the surrounding area. The newly constructed parking ramp has the capacity to accommodate both the loss of on-street parking and the areas found to have exceeded the 75% threshold. will only be in a couple of blocks away. The ramp is currently underutilized with an average of 18 spaces reported out of the 122 spaces available. This is expected to change, however, with the completion of the Confluence redevelopment. The newly constructed art space lofts' impact on downtown parking demand and utilization was analyzed and was found to have minimal effect on the surrounding area, as it provided on-street parking for its tenants. Its data, however, could be applied to future development projects currently being proposed within the study area. Overall, it was found that art space lofts only utilize 42% of its parking spaces, or an average of 25 parking spaces out of the 58 it has available. This is an important finding for developments looking for a variance to downtown core's requirement of providing 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Then with that, I can stand for any questions or comments. Thank you for your time.
Okay, nice, Grady. Commissioners, any questions or comments for Grady? First of all, thank you for the report. Very comprehensive. I'm assuming you had to do everything just by going out there and observing each one of those days. Again, just is a really nice report. What it does show is the trend of the after 5 p.m. trend increasing over the last 4 years, which is definitely a positive. That means more people are coming and they're utilizing that downtown area, which is, kind of the hidden gem that we have for the city. So
Exactly.
you can tell that the shifting trends are definitely there, which is nice to see. So as the whole entire economy kind of changed over the last 4 years, you can see how the trends kind of shifted. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Commissioner Romans?
Thanks. A great report again. Thank you for working on this. This is great. I just had one question with the statement on the art space lofts. Do you know what the utilization of the apartments right now, how rented out they are?
I do not know that, but I could get that figured out. That's an important aspect of it, but, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. I just was wondering on.
When I was doing marketing for the Makers Alleyway Market a couple weeks ago, we did hand out flyers for every apartment, so I'd assume that meant that every apartment was currently occupied.
Okay. Yeah. No. I just had a question on seeing what the occupancy versus the. If it was that everybody only had one car or less, or if there was just empty apartments in there or not. So, no, thank you. This is really great, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Romans. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Commissioner Tyken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious how you handled the restaurants that kind of spilled out into the street. Did you count those as parking spots used, or on Second Street where the restaurants are out taking up parking spots?
Oh, the parklets you're talking about?
Is that what they're called, parklets?
Yeah,
Okay.
I excluded those from the study. So
Okay.
I think it went from 20 to, or 30 to 20, and then.
Okay, I didn't know those were called parklet. That makes sense now. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Tyken. Commissioners, any other comments? Once again, Grady, thank you very much. Another excellent comprehensive report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Other business? Justin? Or John? Is John still with us?
Oh, no, he's long gone.
Okay, I didn't want to ignore. Okay, all right, Justin, go ahead.
I don't even know what John's got cooking. I'm not aware of anything that we've got in the hopper for Planning Commission. And then at City Council, is just going to be ordering the public hearing at the next meeting, and then our business tonight with KOA Storage will be there. And I didn't have anything personally for the last council meeting, and I'm sure John had a few things, but I don't recall what they are.
Okay, Justin, thank you. Commissioners, anything else? Anyone else have anything else? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Howard, and second by
I'll second.
Commissioner Best. All right, any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?